I have to give a little bit of credit to Will Thomas, the guy who goes by Leah. He's the swimmer who beat all the girls on the Penn swim team. Will Thomas was just on some sort of podcast, and he explained how unreasonable it is for conservatives to buy into parts of transgenderism but then oppose men in women's sports.
They're like, oh, we respect Leah as a woman, as a trans woman, whatever. We respect her identity. We just don't think it's fair. You can't really have that sort of half support where you're like, oh, I respect her as a woman here, but not here. They're using the guise of feminism to sort of push transphobic beliefs. And I think a lot of people in that camp sort of carry an implicit bias against trans people, but don't want to, I guess, fully manifest or speak that out. And so they try to just play it off as this sort of half support.
They think about how twisted feminism, quote unquote, feminism has become. Their arguments, in order to exclude anybody in the trans category, you have to reduce women to reproductive capacity, which is, in my opinion, extremely anti-feminist. I don't want to put those women down either, and I know you don't want to either, because I see pain. I see pain, and the pain is coming from somewhere. It's not you, though. It's the patriarchy. And how can we get people to see that?
No, I think it's you. I think it's coming from you, and it's coming from people who are invading their bathrooms and their locker rooms and taking their trophies and their scholarships. That's where it's coming from. And Will is right. This host of the show is completely incoherent, but Will Thomas is totally right when he says it just doesn't make sense. You're going to respect me as a woman in certain parts of society, but not in others. You're going to go halfway. You're going to tell me that you know that I'm a woman, but you're going to behave as though you know that I'm not a woman. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Will Thomas, totally right. Not only is he a great swimmer, at least when he's racing women, but he's more logical than just about anybody in the transgender movement. Either transgenderism has to be established in our law and in our culture, as activists are trying to do right now. They've been trying to do this since 2020, so it's relatively recent. But in the Bostock decision from the Supreme Court, in the Harris Funeral Homes decision from the Supreme Court, the court has said we are going to redefine legal protections on the basis of sex, and we're going to now say that they're protections on the basis of gender identity, which ironically undermines protections on the basis of sex. If you have legal protections on the basis of sex that says girls get their own swim teams, and then you redefine that to say actually people who identify as girls get their own swim teams, then what you've said is girls do not have their own swim teams because Will Thomas is going to compete against you and take your trophies. Okay, that's what our law has increasingly been saying. We either need to follow that to its full conclusion, or for the good of society, and especially for the good of the poor people who've fallen prey to this confusion, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely, the entire ideology from top to bottom. Those are the two options. Will Thomas and I are in agreement on this subject. If you disagree, I don't know, you're disagreeing with the most prominent spokesman of the transgender movement and knuckle-dragging conservatives such as I. Right now, go to GoodRanchers.com, use promo code Knowles. If you have not changed the way you buy meat yet, you really need to. Do you know what I had for dinner last night? Give you one guess. I had Good Ranchers. I had a delicious Good Ranchers steak. It was juicy. It is the finest quality beef that I have I have it not every day, but a great many days. I just adore Good Ranchers. I got 3 reasons for you. 1, they give you free bacon for a year. That's 1.5 pounds of bacon in every box, $240 value. Number 2, Good Ranchers offers a price lock guarantee, meaning that when you subscribe, your price does not change for the length of your subscription. Meat is expected to go up 4.5% in the coming year, so this could be a huge savings for you and your family. Number 3, Good Ranchers meat is unlike any other. All natural burgers, USDA prime steaks, better than organic chicken, will change your standard for great meat. I'm a real stickler when it comes to my meat quality. It's magnificent. Go to GoodRanchers.com, use promo code Knowles for $20 off your box. Free bacon, great meat, a secure price, and a bonus $20 off today. Promo code Knowles at GoodRanchers.com, GoodRanchers.com, American meat delivered. This is the most disturbing story I've heard all week. Out of the Netherlands, officials in the Netherlands have approved assisted suicide for people ages 1 to 12. Babies to preteens can now kill themselves legally, and doctors can help them do it. They will permit the doctors to euthanize children deemed to have conditions which will lead to hopeless and unbearable suffering. Now, the way that the Dutch officials are describing it, they say, oh, this is for a very extreme cases, people who are days away from certain death and they're in such intense pain that we're just going to put them out of their misery. Now, this is not how euthanasia, how assisted suicide actually works in practice. You remember, shortly after the Netherlands approved assisted suicide some years ago, people warned this isn't going to be only used in extreme cases. This is going to be used to put down people who the state deems unworthy of life, even people who don't want to die. And then there was a very famous case of a woman who did have dementia, and so I guess she had forgotten that she had authorized this assisted suicide. And when the doc came to poison her, she said no. And the doc said, too bad, I'm killing you anyway. And she said, no, no, no. And she fought back. She tried to push him away. And then her family held her down while the doctor killed this woman. That's what it looks like. And what it looks like is incentivizing people who are a little bit depressed, who are a little bit anxious, who fear that they're a burden to their families. Incentivizes people to kill themselves. And now they're doing it for little kids. And everyone looks at this and they say, this is horrible. This is shocking. How did this happen? This was always going to happen. It's the same people who look at transing the kids and they say, oh my gosh, this is shocking. How did this happen? This was always going to happen. The minute you accept the logic of assisted suicide, of euthanasia, which is called, it's a term that means good death, but it's not a good death. It's the worst death of all. It's the death that it totally expresses despair. The moment that we accepted that logic, that the perfect expression of despair is a good death, then it was always going to end up with the kids. The moment that we accepted the idea that you had some sort of right to kill yourself, that was always going to go down to the kids. Just as when we accepted the idea that a man can secretly be a woman, well, then that was always going to affect the kids, because if it's true, if the transgender anthropology is true, then of course we have to extend the transing procedures to little kids. It would be cruel not to. If it's really a girl trapped in a boy's body, then of course we've got to put him on cross-sex hormones. Certainly before puberty, we've got to make some interventions, because otherwise it'll be harder for him to transition and express his true self. But it isn't true. And in the case of suicide, you don't have a right to kill yourself. There is no way to make a coherent argument for the right, so-called, to kill yourself. So it's just a pure imposition of will. You say, well, I want to do it. And by the way, we've got all these people that I deem useless and valueless, so let's just get rid of them. You know, they're just a drain on society. And then we get horrified when we see the logical consequences of that play out. Boy, was that good. It was really excellent, incisive, handsome commentary. If you want more of it, you got to ring the bell and click the thing and do the doodad and subscribe to the Michael Knowles YouTube channel. See you next time.